Welcome back to Intercultural Conflict Resolution. Now I know I have you very actively engaged in intercultural exercises. I don't want to take a lot of time from that. I think you're going to learn more by doing than listening to me in a course like Intercultural Conflict Resolution. But before I end my lectures to you in this course, and actually if the right opportunity emerges, I may be doing a couple of interviews with people who have experienced multicultural conflict resolution. So, you know, check the blackboard, we'll see what happens. Before I end my lectures with you in this course, I want to bridge from more simple cross-cultural communication and relations to multicultural NCRP. Normally, you know, most of the, even, you know, Hofstede's work was primarily focused on the global business person, the corporate person, negotiating with another person across cultural difference. Very few people have lived the world of peace building, which is much more complex intergroup conflict. Obviously, for the last decade or so, at least the US, sadly and tragically, well, actually, no, 2 decades almost, has been falling back on traditional military force because they simply don't know alternatives. And there are many alternatives for building peace and addressing problems around the world. And I'm not saying the military and force doesn't have its place strategically, occasionally, but it truly bungles and creates such horrific damage at such enormous human cost when it is ill-used, poorly used, and those making those types of decisions don't appreciate all the NCRP alternatives that are happening in the world today. And they are multicultural. It's not simply you and I from whatever culture or cultures we identify with meeting a single person from another culture. It is working with communities from various cultures and religions who are in conflict with each other, like we see with our most entrenched, horrific conflicts. Now, I was truly given an opportunity of a lifetime when the Palestinian Christians asked me with Fulbright's support to live with them in Bethlehem, West Bank a couple of years ago and help them create a multi-ethnic, multi-religious peace masters program for particularly Arab people wishing to learn NCRP, because frankly, Israelis have been studying at least Harvard-based negotiation and mediation for quite some time, but the Arabs have not had similar opportunities, and so they wanted to provide that. And the program that we helped start has Jewish Israeli faculty as well as Arab, as well as international faculty like myself. And they are, you know, programs like this and programs like ours are truly teaching people how to do multicultural work where many differences are in the room. So if you graduate from our program and you don't see other people doing what you're learning here, consider yourself a mentor, a teacher, a spreader of the reality that there are places where people can learn how to do this. Not that it's easy. But today what I would like to do is talk a little bit about an excellent multicultural assessment if you are asked to help different diverse communities who are in conflict with each other, here are some of the things that I find work. They have helped me in my practice. And we have already studied some of this in this course, so I will be summing this up. And once again, I will be referring to my first book, Holding These Truths, specifically page 149. Now, I would like to begin by quoting from Kim and Rubin, a statement they made in 1988. I hope you are finding, now some of you have moved to the United States from other countries and cultures and have certainly been transforming interculturally long before you entered this class. And I'm so happy you're here. You've had so much to contribute to our discussion and learning. So you're going to understand what's being said in this quote. If some of you are new to intercultural transformation, I hope this class is giving you a taste of what this quote describes. Intercultural transformation is the process by which individuals move beyond the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of their initial cultural frame to incorporate other cultural realities with a cognitive, a mental structure that enables a broadened and deepened understanding of human conditions and cultural differences. This increased cognitive depth and breadth is in turn likely to facilitate corresponding emotional and behavioral capacities as well. So by living an intercultural life, by studying intercultural NCRP and hopefully practicing post-graduation, we are deeply transforming, changing as human beings. And this transformation needs to be one just as prevalent as education transforms around the world today. We all need this. We will all benefit. And actually, at some point, maybe in my lifetime, basic education will acknowledge that we need to be intercultural human beings. Okay, let me turn to my recommendations for an excellent multicultural assessment. First of all, it considers, consults, and when appropriate and helpful, incorporates relevant resources within and without. So this class is one of those resources. I have mentioned I often work with cultural guides when I'm working in complex situations, who can help me understand nuances, who can help me navigate if I have violated a cultural expectation. What is the best alternative in responding, whether I apologize to an elder, whether I, fall back on being an ignorant American, whether I tell a joke. I mean, these are, moment-to-moment details that need to be navigated. I also study and immerse myself in cultural literature. I love international films. I hope you have some of this in your life too. You have to address the basics of culture and conflict resolution, and the cultural assessment statements that you are introduced to in the beginning of Holding These Truths give you some example. Norms and values, I've talked a little bit about how we relate differently to interruption, eye contact, some of the minute variables. There are many. We must address basic assumptions and expectations, and if we don't know what these are, we must figure out ways with our parties to learn what they are, explore what they are. Communication happens in all the minute verbal and nonverbal intuitive ways that we communicate in this world. And it's, once again, a lifelong journey. But in any particular process, We need to be addressing what is present in that process. And then in addition to communication, many of you do well with paraphrasing and active listening. But the problem solving, the creative problem solving half of mediation, you get a little lost. You'll need to address and learn the various perspectives and approaches to problem solving. Now, you do this in multiple ways. You observe as closely as you can, because probably what most research shows is that we communicate more nonverbally and intuitively than we do verbally. You can interview individuals in groups. Once again, consult with expert resources. Maybe do some confidential surveys like I did in my research in the Balkans, Cameroon, Nepal, and Ukraine. We have to consider culture in its rich diversity. People who get on a bandwagon about traditional culture, unfortunately, are often and at least sometimes oppressing the youth of their cultures, the women of their cultures. I mean, tradition can be brilliant and something to be proud of, as I am proud of the Norwegian democratic low power distance traditions, but it can also be incredibly abusive and oppressive. It can be socioeconomic, as I mentioned with the caste system, and if you are saying, well, we're not Indian, we're not Nepali, we don't have to worry about this. You need to engage with people around the world who suffer because of the invisible, unacknowledged caste systems of most societies around the world. The wealthy, the privileged, the 1%, the 2%, in most societies will oppress and mistreat those they see below them. Gender, I've already talked about, and that I wish I had more time to explore those differences. And we also need to be willing to explore, as I briefly introduced, diversity within cultures and within groups. Even a family, not everyone has had the same experience, has the same perspective. And culture is dynamic. It changes every day. And that is a reality that the youth always remind us as they protest and lead the change. An excellent multicultural assessment will identify missing data, what you need to research and learn, and it will describe what you learn in very concrete detail while you're suspending judgment. And you don't just do this assessment once, you continue throughout the time that you're working with the intercultural, multicultural process. Now, in closing, I'd like to read at least highlights from my proposed working assumptions to guide and promote openness, honesty, and understanding in multicultural process. We ask that the parties commit to valuing difference and genuine contact communication. We acknowledge diversity in depth and dynamism, allowing and respecting individual voices within as well as without. It's okay for people to change their opinions. We surface and examine, everyone surfaces and examines their own assumptions, generalizations, and ignorance. And I have not mentioned ability as one of the differences, but having helped set precedent with the American Disabilities Act, I'm very much a champion. I mean, I just don't have the time to keep identifying difference. We need to be sensitive, considerate, and compassionate with historic and present pain and struggle. This is never, NCRP is never an abstract or intellectual discussion. And last but not least, speaking truth to power, anger, disappointment, pain is welcome, but we don't attack each other or blame. We express our experiences in ways that help everyone understand and stay open to hearing us. I love this class. I hope you feel the same. Have a great week.